speed.
Hi, I'm Danny Dietz, a senior at Simsbury High School, and I'm going to jump straight into this because that's how fast it all happens. About a year and a half ago, I was playing varsity lacrosse when I started to feel sick. I was getting shortness of breath and losing a lot of weight. You guys hear about the stories about athletes who fall dead on the field. Turns out they had an enlarged heart or some heart issue. Well, that was one game away from being me. So I think the game before my last playoff game, my mom took me off the field and I went straight to the doctors. And after 3 misdiagnosed doctor's appointments, they realized that I had an enlarged heart and I need an echocardiogram. The echocardiogram revealed that my heart was in serious condition and I needed to go straight to Boston Children's Hospital where they could deal with it. So the first 40 days I was in Boston Children's, a lot of it was figuring out how my body can cope and if my body can heal my heart. I used a lot of methods. We tried oral medication, just pills, and once that failed, we used an IV. We used IV medication that actually, for a little while, did improve my heart function until it started to affect my liver. At that point, I had to take more drastic measures. I had to get an LVAD, a left ventricular assist device, that would basically put a motor inside my heart that has a wire coming out of my stomach that would pump the blood through my heart to the rest of the body. And after a 7-hour open heart surgery and being out for 3.5 days, I woke up with an LVAD in my body, and I felt pretty good. There were some complications at first, some bleeding, but after I got past all of that, I felt a lot better than I used to. So now that I had an LVAD, I was waiting for a heart transplant, and that was very scary. But you know, when it comes down to it, it was either that or death. So I came to terms with it. So I went home and I started getting ready to go back to school when on September 10th I got the call from my heart. And on 9/11 at 2 in the morning, I went into surgery and got my heart transplant. After 2.5 days of being out, I woke up with a new heart. And the first thing I asked was, how did my fantasy football team do? After 10 days of recovery, I got sent home, and I felt really good. You know, it was a long recovery process, but you know, it was much better than anything I felt the past months. So with my new heart, I had to worry about a few things. I had to worry about my immune system, which was severely decreased by my medication to prevent rejection, which is the biggest threat to a transplanted organ. It was really hard to get back into school and stuff, so I would get tutored for about the first semester. And once I got back to school, everything went great. I was going back to the gym, I was working on my strength and my stamina, and I even got to travel a little bit, went to California, and my immune system was actually improving. It was getting used to the medication, which made it easier to prevent like colds and stuff. Where for me, a cold would actually result in more like what you guys would feel a flu. So after a lot of consideration by my doctors, they decided that they thought I was healthy enough to get back into football, which is my favorite sport. I love it, and I've played it since 2nd grade. At first, I was told I would never play contact sports again, and it really was impacting my life because of my sternum. But after consideration, they said my sternum was strong enough, and they thought that me playing football would actually be good for me. So first time getting back on the field, pretty nervous. Never thought I'd really be able to get back out there, and I thought I was going to be a kicker. And it turns out I'm really terrible at kicking, so that didn't work out so hot. But once the doctors started telling me that I was cleared to do full contact, I started branching out, and I started going back to my old position at wide receiver. And after getting my stamina back up and a lot of strength, you know, it was tough. You know, practice was hard. I had to catch my breath a lot. I had to work my heart rate up a lot. But never did I quit, and I always had fun. The reason it was so hard for me to get back was because when they transplant a heart, they cut the valve nerves, which basically controls your heart rate. So the only thing that increases my heart rate and decreases it is adrenaline. And adrenaline works by pumping through your blood into your heart. And once that chemical is produced in your heart, the heart realizes it needs to go faster. So for me, that means about a 15-minute warm-up before I do any physical activity, and then after a 15-minute resting period, so I can let my heart calm down. So that was really big for me. And also it was really hard getting back into football when I had to deal with like colds and getting sick, because when you're around a bunch of dudes who are always like bumping into each other, it gets hard to stay super clean. But I'm back playing the sport I love, and it's all because of my donor. It's all because of people donating blood too. And so I'm back playing football. I've been playing now since the first game. Last 2 weeks ago, actually, I had my first reception, and last week I had my first touchdown back at it. So, life is beautiful, and I'm just getting the chance to be who I always was, and I couldn't be happier.